Okay, Bismillah Rahman Rahim. Today we will start our first lecture for this course, that is Advanced Artificial Intelligence. And in this course, we will discuss the concept of machine learning. So we will see what is important in machine learning and what are the various algorithms and various applications of machine learning in our daily life. So we will look into the various approaches and we will also discuss later on regarding classification algorithm, supervised learning or unsupervised learning, so on and so forth. So we'll try to understand all these concepts such that we can apply these concepts in certain problems. Okay. So why we learn? This is the first question. Instead of going into this question first or this slide first, let's think about your own self. Learning is one of the very important trait of human being, and all humans have this capacity to learn. Uh, we learn from our experience, and we learn from our practices, and obviously that learning will help us to improve our decisions in future. Let's take a very simple example from your daily life. You didn't know actually how to drive initially, so you start driving by just having your bike or a car, and then you start learning on some empty space. At that time you don't know exactly how you have to proceed, but you learn accordingly. And and day by day, if you go for continuous repetition of this task, the the learning will help you to improve yourself, and one day you can come on the road and you can drive your car or motorcycle in heavy traffics with all traffic rules. So how this become possible? This become possible by a learning trait, which is inbuilt in humans or your brain activity. Similarly, let's take the other example. You didn't know about a certain game. For example, let's talk about chess. So, what you want to do, you want to be a good player of chess, and then you start learning what chess is all about. So, it is not that easy that I'll give you one lecture of chess and then you will become the best player of chess. No, this is not possible. Not possible. So what will happen? You'll start play chess with some players or opponents, and obviously as a beginner, you will most of the time you will lose because you don't know the traits of chess, because you have not experienced all those situations which might come in a chess. But what will happen if you continuously do this task, number one, and number two, if you gradually increase the capacity of your opponent, then you will able to learn chess in some point in time. Okay, and you can apply it on your own logic and for your own play, and then you can see that you might get good returns. That is the second example I've given to you by example from game. Now let's talk about any other thing. For example, swimming might be, or okay, leave the swimming. Let's suppose an individual in a factory who is responsible to to classify various kind of apples in a factory, because the factory makes the marmalade and juices. So what they do, they classify apples, in four categories. One is for the jam, one is for the apple, one is for the cocktail, and one is, of course, not cannot be used in any of the product. So they classify these apples, and as a human, they have trained people who can do the task. And so there may be 20, 15 to 20 people who actually quickly select those apples from a conveying belt, okay, and they do the task and they separate it accordingly. So again, by repeating this task again and again, the humans become very perfect in doing this task. This is again a good example of learning. So I can give you as many examples I can, but obviously we have a time constraint. So I'll not go into further detail. So now you have understand the concept of learning. So learning itself is a process, and that process might include certain activities. So machine learning is what is a is programming computers to optimize a performance criterion using example data or past experience. Now the same function of learning we want to introduce in machines, so that the way you learn the process, the machine can learn in the same manner. How you have learned the chess game, similarly I can train a machine in such a manner a machine can play chess game with humans or other machines might be. Or similarly, as you have classified various apples in various bins, a machine can do the same task to classify those apples in the same manner. So, that is what we are expecting to do with the machine. But whenever we are doing these problems are, can be categorized, because learning examples are different, and those examples which are similarly or which are normally based on the simple analytics are not classified as learning examples. For example, in an organization, you want to create a payroll, because payroll is purely a structured decision. In a payroll, all the conditions and the appropriate actions are already defined. So there is no need to for a payroll system to use learning, because payroll itself is clearly defined. So learning is used when human experience does not exist. So human experience does not exist, it means there we can apply the learning. Sorry, not experience, we talk about expertise. Human expertise does not exist. There we can apply the learning process. So we do not have a human expertise, there we can use learning as well. For example, we do not have an expertise of expert medical doctors. So what we can do, we can use learning for that purpose, and we can build such application, and that application can be used in this COVID-19 situation. In various countries all over the world, they have adapted this model, because in most of the countries, the traffic towards the hospitals is restricted. The people were asked to stay at home. So they were providing medical services to the people at their houses by two ways. One is by human to human interactions, doctors through telehealth applications, and they have also adapted some sort of learning applications, and they have developed such softboards to solve this problem. Humans are unable to explain their expertise. For example, speech recognition. So, speech recognition itself is a problem. How we can recognize a particular speech and convert it into an actions. So there we can apply the learning process. So how we can apply the learning process is a different question that we'll discuss in detail later on. Solution changes in time, routing on a computer network. So learning can be applied. For example, search-based problems and how we will navigate, how we will traverse, all these things can be can be solved with the help of learning. Solutions needs to be adapted to particular cases. For example, as we use biometrics, so we have various biometrics, and then with the help of those biometrics we can apply various solutions, and we can learn the trait in a particular problem. So these are some of the reasons why learning is important, because learning is everywhere. So whenever we talk about learning, it means we are talking about the update of knowledge as well. Learning is not possible when you do not update your knowledge. So every time when we go for a new action, that knowledge is updated, and it is the function of a human brain as well. Whatever the task we will do, whether we will succeed or whether we will not succeed, whether we have a failure, what will happen, that actually that the outcome is updated in our brains, and whenever we do the same task again, the brain gives you the signal. So learning helps you to improve your actions. If you do not apply learning, then you will never improve your actions. For example, you want to know how to behave in a certain situation, you have to learn. You have to, you must know that what are the important things which I have to consider while I am in a particular environment. So, if you do not learn, obviously you will not improve your actions. Okay, and it also includes knowledge as well, because learning is not possible without knowledge. So either you have your experiences, either you have your past knowledge with yourself that you use for your learning purpose, or your previous actions might help you to learn, or new information is being updated to your system. So learning is a very, very important trait, and learning is always a continuous process. So this is about learning. Okay, what we talk about when we talk about learning, number one, the first point says that learning journal models from a data of a particular examples. Learning general models from a data of particulars. One thing is, what we can do is we can generalize, or we can make a general model of learning. How it is possible? When we have data available for particular examples. For example, I just give you one example to understand the concept. For example, in a COVID situation, we want to know what will happen to those people who have type 1 and type 2 diabetes, how they have responded to the COVID-19 situation. So now for that purpose, I want to develop a model based on the data of such type 1 and type 2 diabetes patients available from various sources. So one thing is that once we have that data, we can make a learning journal model. Okay, for example, you have the weather data with yourself for the last 20, 30 years, that how weather, various weather parameters, in various months of a year, and we will predict, or we will generalize a learning model that what will happen in the next year, in the same month or in the same week, uh, to analyze the situation. Number two, second point is that data is cheap and abundant. So we have lots of data with ourselves nowadays. We are sufficient in data nowadays. Why? Because we are building data resources everywhere. Either if you talk about a business, so all those transactions are being recorded. All those transactions are being recorded. And similarly, the for example, in a bank, we have various sorts of transactions. So all data is there. You're buying, you're selling, that data is there. Whatever event is happening, the data is being recorded. So the organizations have their own data warehouses where they store data of various kinds. So we have too much of data nowadays with ourselves, but problem is that how we can convert that data into a knowledge component. Because once you convert that data into a knowledge component or into a knowledge, then it is beneficial for the organization. So therefore, we can say that the data is abundant, but knowledge is expensive and scarce. So not everywhere we have that knowledge. So not everywhere we have that knowledge, because that knowledge has to be extracted from that data. And this process is not that simple, that you have a data and you just convert this into a knowledge. When you convert something into a knowledge, that reflects in your system, that reflect in your system. So let's suppose, take an example of a very renowned brand. So what they do, they keep the data of all customers who purchase various goods from their brand all over the world. And then from that data, they want to determine that, okay, how many people are interested in what type of specific products, what type of age groups are interested in a specific products, what are their buying patterns, and on the basis of that, they can target exactly those people who who are their potential buyers, and they are reaching out to that people who want that particular product. So it means they have converted their data into a knowledge based system, or in a knowledge driven system. So, if that is converted into a knowledge, then it is a beneficial thing for the organization, and they can use it for their own purpose. So, I have given you the example of finding out the best apples from four kinds of apples. So, that is the data we have. Okay, let's suppose we have the A category of this, B category of this, C category of this, and D category of this on day one, then on day two, then on day three, the total number of apples as well, and the errors which have been generated by humans, because humans can also generate errors. So the data is being used and the knowledge is being used to convert this into a machine learning based problem, and that domain knowledge is acquired from that system, and then we have developed or a machine based application which can do the same task. It means now you have converted this into a knowledge. For example, in a retail system, customer transactions to consumer behavior. So the behavior is reflected from various transactions, because let's suppose in a retail system, lot of people come and go, and we cannot concentrate on a single individual. But those transactions can easily reflect the consumer behavior. Let's suppose they are more interested in buying bakery items rather than they are interested to buy meat section, go into the meat section. Or the people are more interested in products which have special offers compared to those products which do not have a professional offer. Or we have observed that from the consumer behavior that the people are more inclined towards the brands rather than the items which are not branded. So what is this? This is, or the amount of the spending they have, that is also reflected in terms of their behavior. So people who bought a dash dash also bought the five people you meet in heaven. So this is represented by a www.amazon.com. So people who bought this also bought the five. So this is what? This is a slogan. And that slogan means, that is slogan by Amazon. So it means that you are actually giving or benefit to the people on the basis of a certain thing which is being reflected from the data. Build a model that is good and useful approximation of the data. This is the primary goal of this course, that at the end of this course or the mid of this course, you people must be able to develop a model to see a situation, to see the data, and then convert this into a model, so that model can be used as a useful approximation, and then we can approximate, and then we can see, okay, that what will happen next. So this is all about important about the learning. Okay, data mining, or normally we call KDD, knowledge data discovery. So data mining is another important aspect whenever we talk about converting information into a knowledge. So how we can extract knowledge from the given data resource. So therefore, the knowledge discovery process itself is a non-trivial process. It means that it is not, you can say, a straightforward analytical job. Instead of that, you have to apply certain techniques or methods which are normally categorized as non-trivial. So KDD is the non-trivial process of, the important thing is what? Of identifying valid, novel, and potentially useful and ultimately understandable patterns in the data. So that is very much important. So we have lots of data with ourselves, but that data has to be, data has to be represented whenever we have that data. And then we have to identify the valid. Valid means those discoveries which are possible, which are implementable, which are novel, means it is not there, you have identified it, actually it is not there, it's a new thing which you have identified from that data. Normally, apparently, from a data, you can find out the simple things. Which, for example, if I have the student data, I can straightforwardly check how many students are there in this class, how many students have this grade, how many students have grade more than 3 CGPA, how many of students have not means move to the next year. Okay, so this is all apparent. but there is something which is new which I can discover from the data. Let's suppose I want to discover that a special or specific pattern amongst the data, among the students. Let's suppose I want to know, okay, the people, the students who came from this particular college, okay, have this specific pattern. Now this is not apparently there. Now I want to discover that data. Or the students who have opted for these courses have these specific outcomes. So it means you have to come out with some novelty in your application. So potentially useful, of course, if it is useful, then you will use it. Ultimately understandable patterns. So we want to discover those patterns that can be applied in retail, because a lot of businesses nowadays want to have retail businesses, and they want to develop a customer relationship management system or CRM. Usually we have lots of messages these days on our your mobile phones or on our Facebook, and they also conduct various kinds of analysis, that is called basket analysis, and then they can use that information to attract their clients or customer, or they improve their system. In finance we use this for credit scoring and fraud detection. So normally the people, they can get the credit cards and they use their credit cards a lot, but they want to know or build a credit rating systems or credit scoring system, so that such that they can categorize a customer or a client, that what is his or her credit rating, so they can be given new credits as well. Manufacturing, we want to optimize the manufacturing. We want to build those products in minimum cost, in minimum steps, and we want to make maximum products. In medicine, it is used in medical diagnosis for various diseases. For example, now in COVID situation, lot of applications have been built to discover whether the COVID symptoms are there or not. These applications are built for specific diseases such as blood diseases, heart diseases, etc., etc. In telecommunication, it is used to improve the quality of service optimization. So how that data reflects that what is the quality of service, and that how that quality of service can be optimized. Bioinformatics, for example, we can use for motifs or alignments, or in web minings, we use this for search engines. How we can improve the performance of a search engine so that we can retrieve a certain information in a quick manner. So that is the some of the applications you can say, but there are so many other applications as well. So with this, I conclude the first part of this chapter, and after 10 minutes, I will start the next part of this chapter. So I conclude my presentation over here. Thank you.